For 10 years now, there's been talks about Apple making a car, and then it's just gone. For now, at least. Hello everyone, this is Matt from Real World Review, and today I'm going to be talking about what's on my mind. Also, it is going to be slightly scripted. There are going to be some things that I need to talk about, but anyway, let's get started. The story today is about Apple making an electric car. Back in 2014 is when Project Titan was rumored to have started, and that was Apple's first steps into cars, specifically electric. They hired thousands of people to start research and development on making cars, but it wasn't until 2017 when Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, announced that they were, quote, focusing on autonomous systems. There's no mention of any product from what I can find, and the entire development was behind closed doors. That said, there are some cases where people found cars that looked like they were Apple products or they were Apple cars being tested in the wild, but generally those were retrofitted cars with sensors, most likely for self-driving or possibly just driving data, not a specific Apple car in general. That said, there was an Apple car back in 2018 that said that it was rear-ended in a road test, but I can't find any pictures of that. And the only thing that I've actually seen was a Lexus SUV that had like Apple writing on it, or it looked like they were testing maybe for maps, possibly for something else, I'm not sure. But that accident in 2018, I can't find any pictures of that. Maybe you can, but that's just something I wasn't able to find. There haven't really been any bespoke Apple cars, just retrofitted cars like that Lexus that I was telling you about. But it says in 2018, Apple registered 27 self-driving cars with the DMV, which makes sense because a car has to be registered before it can go on public roads. I'm curious though, the car has to have insurance, so I wonder if any insurance companies would say exactly what that is, but if they're registered with the DMV, I would assume that someone would have said exactly what cars they are. Then in 2019, layoffs started happening, but most importantly, Apple bought Drive.ai, which is an autonomous vehicle startup. Not the startup being autonomous, but, autonomous vehicles. Recently, there has been talks about Apple thinking about making a vehicle with BMW or Volkswagen, the former making more sense because of the Toyota Supra, but more importantly is Digital Key Plus, which allowed the iPhone to work natively with a BMW key, specifically the BMW 530i. And most likely more vehicles since then. I think they have the BMW X1 and the iX models from 2023 and newer. The last car manufacturer is said to be made by Hyundai, which would be very disappointing, honestly, but also confusing given that iOS, visionOS, iPadOS, macOS, and tvOS run on Apple-made devices. So doing a collaboration or making a car that is made by another company as opposed to making it by Apple seems kind of weird, unless they are just focused on software. Then finally, in 2024, we actually got some rumors pointing to 2028 being the release date, and it looked kind of promising given how much that Apple started focusing on CarPlay. Then in February, it was announced that Apple scrapped the project and will not be making an electric car, with the electric point constantly being thrown into articles. Again, besides Tim Cook talking about autonomous vehicles during an interview, Apple, the company, has never announced any plans on making a vehicle, the vendors, or the hardships that they've gone through. And I think that's fine. I don't think that making a vehicle is easy to do. As time goes on, making new products that you've never made is definitely going to be difficult. We've seen this with Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid, which all end up making their products that they say that they will, but with lots of changes before the release. Apple does have a lot of money that they can spend on this, and just like Meta with VR, they're going to have to spend a lot of money and definitely expect to not make a lot of money until they start selling these products. And with a product like an iPhone, it's $1,000, not that big of a deal, but with a car, we're talking about tens of thousands and possibly even hundreds of thousands of dollars to put into a vehicle just with the hopes of selling it for a profit. Obviously, Apple's goal with everything is to turn their products into the next iPhone, something that they've done with most of their product lines since the iPhone, but they also have to see that their expensive products don't always sell that well. Apple coming out with a car that's rumored to be $100,000 USD or more would definitely not sell that well, but Apple does have to know that. This cash cow will definitely feel like a money pit for years, but they have to see it the way that Tesla saw it. Not saying that they would see a profit immediately, but just that there is some potential there. Would I personally like to see an Apple car? Yes, but then it wouldn't even be made by Apple. Sure, the argument doesn't even make sense because Apple doesn't entirely make their products in the first place, going with TSMC for the processors, Samsung screens, Sony cameras, and other parts, just to name a few, but they would instead make a car that's made by a company like Hyundai or BMW with Apple software. I guess in the same way that the Toyota Supra is the BMW Z4, but even then a Supra would be more different than an Apple car. I never thought that Apple would make a car from scratch, but I think they should. While it is said that Apple is quitting making an electric car, I think that they might come back with Tesla or Rivian, given that those companies know how to make electric cars. And maybe a collaboration with those companies makes more sense. In the end, I think that Apple will have to go the way of having another company make their product with Apple's software, go in the same route that Google did when they made their Nexus and Pixel devices until recently. They'll have a few companies make their product, then slowly figure out how to make their own product. That way they bring in at least some money instead of blowing money on a project that has zero return like they're doing right now. And that's all I got today. Discuss in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.